And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Greetings, greetings. Welcome, welcome. Good morning. Greetings, welcome. Demetrius Scott in the building. Daughter Cabria Jesse in the building. Janine Wilkins in the building, all the way from out there in Alaska. Got up early. I'm honored by that. Good morning. Good morning. Daughter Cabria Jesse, I'm here. Good to see you. Chris is in the building. Maurice Foster's in the building. Tiffany Curry's in the building. Monica Welch is in the building. We got Yannicka Leonard Landry in the building. We got Stephanie D. Jacobs in the building. Hit that share button, somebody. Hit that retweet. Share it to some of those groups you belong to as well. Mr. Jay Robinson is in the building. Shay Campbell is here in the building. Marcus Scott IV, that's my guy, in the building. Don DeLeo White is in the building. Jonathan Maheen is in the building. Tandra Gibble is in the building. We got a lot of people in the building. It's 11. What time is it? 10:57. We got a lot of folks here. We got Melina Valentine in the building. And by the way, go to her page. Check her out. She does what I do. A former principal as well, Melina Valentine. Go to her page. She does a lot of live presentations, and you want to check those out, right? So Melina Valentine, she's on this thread. She's one of my colleagues, former principal, full-time presenter like myself, and I want you to check some of her work out. We got Jody Schilling in the building. Dr. Aaron Miller is in the building. I know I missed some of you. Lily Lanier is in the building. T.B. Summers is in the building. Tiffany Haywood is in the building. Champion Principal down there in Tuscaloosa is in the building. That's my guy. Yes, ma'am, Marlina. Aaron Packard, that's another one of my guys. He's in the building. Jennifer Desmond is in the building. Michael Benton, that's my guy out there in Cincinnati. Darren Green, my guy out here in Trenton, is in the building. My wife, Kimberly Broughton Kafele, is in the building. We got a lot of people in the building. Hit that share button. Cindy Mosley's in the building. Venice Lewis is in the building. Man, we got so much to talk about today. Ramos Elizabeth is in the building. Antoinette Marie is in the building. Val Paul is in the building. Shamara, Cecile, you know I mess up your name every time. It goes so quick, I can't process it. It's gone now. Sherry Jones is in the building. Ann Rhodes is in the building. Hit that share button, somebody. Hit that retweet button, somebody. Let them know it's that time. We're in week 38. We keep it rocking and rolling. Week 38. This was supposed to be 18 weeks, and we're in 38 going on to 55. But I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag right now while we're still in shout outs. I'm going past 55. I'll tell you that right now. I've been rethinking this thing and doing some things, and this I'm just going to do this thing infinitely. So most of you will move on to the principalship, and it'll still be relevant, but there'll be a whole new crowd coming on board as people have this epiphany that they want to be an assistant principal. So, why would I end it? We just keep it going. It just won't be every Saturday, but we'll talk about that at another time. Yolanda McKinney is in the building. Paul Shakade, oh man, I messed that up, is in the building. Loretta Aguilar is in the building. Joe Hager is in the building. That might be Hager. Kimberly Campbell Davis is in the building. Monica Welch, I think I said, is in the building. Rodney Richardson is here in the building. Nikki Burke Brailsford is in the building. Erica Walker is in the building. Jessica Phillip, Kanisha Clark, Andra Holdorf, Cammie Berry, Sienna Nichelle, Sherry Jones, Monica Stokes, Benjamin Cruz are all in the building. All these folks in the building, man, the building got to be large because, we got to fit everybody under the same roof, under one roof in the building. So I'm getting ready to get it going. Josie Santoro's in the building. My daughter said it's 11. I see that clock, man. I see it. She said it's 11 o'clock. Debbie Piles is in the building. Is that one of my former students? I'm not sure. But let's, it's 11, y'all. I got 3 pages of notes. It's 11 o'clock. So let me say formally now, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to session number 38 of the Virtual Assistant Principal Leadership Academy. And as I always say, I don't know about you. I mean, I don't know about you. I can speculate, but I don't know about you. But let me just speak for me for a moment. I'm on fire. Y'all didn't hear me. You didn't hear me. Let me let you know how I feel one more time. I'm on fire. That's how I'm feeling. See, I'm smiling. I'm on fire. The world is falling apart, but I'm still on fire. Let me tell you what I mean by that. See, I'm not going to let anybody extinguish this flame. That's all I'm saying. You can't douse this fire. Yeah, stuff going all around us. I'm paranoid. I'm like, yo, don't even. We have a family member came here the other night. Like, stay on a portion. I'll be on the other side of the door, and we talk like that. I mean, that's where it's at right now. So you and I have to keep the fire blazing regardless, because you and I chose to be educators. You and I chose to be leaders. So as leaders, as educators, the fire has to continue to rage. That's where it's at. Look, I got a quick message for you. It's called protecting your happiness. Once again, protecting your happiness. Here's what I'm saying. As I just said, there is reason to be stressed. There is reason to be burnt out. There's reason to be paranoid, right? There's reason to just have these feelings of uncertainty about the future. It's legitimate reason. But I'm saying to you, your happiness, like one of the other weeks we talked about protecting your peace. Well, here I'm saying you got to protect your happiness. It's fragile. See, it's very fragile, and it's easy for circumstances, stimuli to creep into your life, and then your happiness cracks, bends. See, you got to protect it. You got to guard it. You got to shield it. See what I'm doing? You got to cage it in. Your happiness, right? It's here. It's here. You got to cage it in. You got to shield it. You got to protect it. Because it's easy for something to get inside and dismantle your happiness, right? I gotta be happy, regardless of what's happening in the world. Regardless of today's topic, I've got to be happy, right? I can't function if I'm not happy. I can't do what I do at a high level if I'm not happy. I gotta be happy. So I'm saying to you, you got to put all the effort that you can into protecting your own happiness. And the key word, the operative word, you've got to protect it, right? Protect it, shield it, guard it, because it's yours. Only you can do that for yourself. You can't wait for somebody else to protect your happiness for you. You've got to protect it for yourself. Let me give you that word of the week. My word of the week this week, it's interesting as I come up with these different words. The word I used a few weeks ago is really the word I want to use every week. So I'm just going, we kind of like say this word underlies everything. And that word is exhale. That's not my word of the week. It's about 4 weeks ago. Exhale. I'm saying just exhale because every day we got the stresses of 2020, 2021, and you got to find time to just, right? Got to do it, right? But that's not my word of the day today. My word of the day is fixation. I'm probably contradicting myself right now. Fixation. And when I say fixation, I'm talking about the work. I'm not talking about everything in life. I'm talking about the work. Hey, aspiring leaders out there. Hey, assistant principals out there. Hey, seasoned leaders out there. Hey, superintendents out there, assistant superintendents, principals, directors, supervisors, whatever your roles are. I'm saying to you, you chose these roles. I get when we say we were called to do that. I get that. I feel like I was, right? But we still made a decision to answer the call. Do you hear me? See, if you're one that says I was called to teach, I was called to lead, right? I was called to counsel, whatever it is. Fine. I'm good with that. But I want you to remember, you still had to consciously answer the call, right? So you made a decision regardless of the fact you were called to do it. You made a decision, therefore, let me shift gears and walk into this position called leadership. So I'm saying now that you're in it, you have to be fixated on being the best you in it. You got to be fixated on being phenomenal. Now, you don't have to run around telling people, I'm phenomenal, I'm great, I'm extra. You ain't got to do that. I'm saying to you, you got to know within your mind, you got to know within your heart that I'm doing this at a phenomenal level. I'm doing this at an extraordinary level, right? I'm doing this at an amazing level. See, that's got to be your mindset, your attitude, your psyche, that I am fixated on being the best version of myself. Hey, somebody hit that share, hit that retweet, man. I'm feeling the sweat coming on already. I'm saying you got to be fixated, locked in. You see what I'm saying? Locked in, not half stepping. Not, well, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know about today. I don't know about tomorrow. No, that's not leadership. You waking up in the morning like your attitude is I'm on fire. I'm on fire. See, that's what I'm talking about. And now you fixated on that fire. See, you fixated on leading at the highest possible level. Do you hear me? See, that's what I'm talking about. You locked in. Jennifer said, I'm locked in. You got to be locked in. I wish I had me a lock right now. Matter of fact, I do. Right? Let me see if I could get it like real quick and not waste time, because I wanna make my point, man. Just bear with me. I got my hand on it. There it is. You got to locked in. See, that's what I'm saying. See, God had a lock near me, right? What am I doing with a lock near me, right? You got to be locked in, lock it, and be fixated on being the best you. Let's go, y'all. It's 11:07. I got so much to talk about. Y'all hang with me today, right? If you got things to do, tell the folks, look, I got to hang with Kafele, man. I'll be with y'all. They say, well, you can watch the video later. No, I want to catch them live, right? So just hang out with me. So I got my daughter watching, right? So and she's not even an educator. She's a college student, though. So she hanging in there, you hanging there, right? So here we are. First, for the newbies who came on board for the first time, let me say to you that this is a 55-week venture and endeavor. But it's going to go further, because I'm not going to end it at 55. I just won't do it the way I'm doing it. But it started as 18. Now we 55 every Saturday, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But we said as an underlying question to just drive it all is, does my assistant principalship benefit my school academically? Once again, does my assistant principalship benefit my school academically? We said that's the question to just kind of drive it all, right? To kind of guide it all, to steer it all. So that's the underlying question to everything that we do on these broadcasts on Saturday mornings, right? So now here, this is an academy. So an academy, an institute, right? It has a book. If you don't have this yet, and thank you for all of you that made it a bestseller, right? If you don't have it yet, the Assistant Principal 50, get your copy. The Assistant Principal 50, right? It's been out since May. But the accompanying book, the Aspiring Principal 50, right? Because if you're an AP, chances are good you want to go on to the principalship. Well, I got a lot of information in here for you on that. If you're an aspiring administrator, although the next step may be assistant principal, you still may have your sights on the principalship. This was written for you too. Amazon.com, ASCD.org, BarnesandNoble.com, or wherever education books are sold, it should be there, right? Also, I renamed the YouTube channel. No longer called School Leadership Thoughts. I said, let me make it consistent with everything across the board. It's called Virtual AP Leadership Academy now. So when you look for the videos, those of you who haven't seen, if you missed any of the previous 37 weeks, they're all on the channel. Again, it used to be called School Leadership Thoughts, but I decided I'm going to make this exclusively a part of this academy. So the channel is called Virtual AP Leadership Academy. Just type that in the search bar on Google, or just go to YouTube and type it in and it'll come right up. And then you can watch all the previous 37 hours of content. Plus, I go over every week, so 37 plus hours of content to get you caught up to where we are in week 38. All right, I'm ready. I'm done. Topic today, part 2, school leadership in times of social unrest, uprisings, rebellions, and riots, right? Again, school leadership in times of social unrest, uprising, rebellions, and riots. And as I said last week, I'm going to repeat myself this week. This is not a political presentation. It's a school leadership presentation. It's not political. It's a school leadership presentation. I wish every leader, seasoned and aspiring, was on this call this morning nationally, because it's an important conversation we're gonna have. Last week was hot and so forth, but now we're gonna talk about the classroom, right? Last week, we talked about, and because I'm not going to get into it this week, but we talked about January 6th, the insurrection at the Capitol. We juxtaposed that with white mob violence in terms of African American history. We talked about all that. You go last week's video on YouTube and catch up and watch that. But this week, I want to talk about the classroom relative to your leadership. But I'm saying it's not a political message; it's a school leadership message. But it is meant to create discomfort. It is. It's meant to create discomfort in those areas that you need to sharpen your axe, right? So I said last week, avoiding this conversation is not acceptable, right? I'm going to say it again. Avoiding this conversation as a school leader is not acceptable. It is not okay, right? You can't sweep this one under the rug. You can't run away from this. You can't claim that because it's happening out there, it has nothing to do with what's happening in the classroom, because what's happening in the world outside and what's happening in the classroom inside are one and the same, right? They're not two separate entities, right? They're one and the same. It's just that life for the child, now for the time that the child's in school or on the screen during a pandemic, it means that now this is the portion of my life, the portion of my day that I'm learning in a classroom setting. But it doesn't extract me from the world. I'm still a part of the world. So it's not okay to run away from this conversation at all. As a school leader, as a school teacher, it is not okay. It is unacceptable. But what's interesting is that we find ourselves, to get this, y'all. I got a lot to say today, y'all. I can tell you now I'm gonna go overtime, so don't worry about it. Y'all hanging there with me. Football games don't start till later today, so we good. Listen, we're in the midst of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, right? It's always nice when his birthday falls on a Friday and then the holiday's not till Monday, because then we got the whole weekend. I'm gonna be sitting here later on today just kind of watching some YouTube videos of his speeches and so forth, and I got a lot of audio here, and that's how I'm going to kind of spend a portion of my day. That's what I do. But we're in the midst of King weekend while we're in the midst of what just happened at the Capitol and what's being projected to happen at state capitals all over the country. We're like in it right now, right? So as I was tweaking my agenda this morning and thinking about, here we are in the midst of King weekend, and here we are in the midst of extreme white supremacy relative to what we saw at the Capitol, relative to what we're hearing about what folks are planning for state capitals across the country. I had a question that I wanted to ask you. If Dr. King was still here, right? If he was still alive, what would he say about the plight of race relations, social justice issues, racial justice issues, and the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol? Let me repeat that, because I don't use any text on these. You all the veterans, you know why I don't. If Dr. King was still alive, what would he say about the plight of race relations, social justice issues, racial justice issues, and particularly the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol? What would he say? We know that literally he would be a very old man, an old gentleman at this time in his 90s. But leave that alone. Just the King that we knew. What would he say? How would he respond? How would he react? What would he do? What would he write? And see, if he was here in the age of social media, would he have a Twitter page? Would he have a Facebook page? Would he use that as a medium to communicate? Would he have a YouTube channel? And would he use that as a medium to communicate to the masses? So how would he use modern technology, and what would he say in the wake of what we've been experiencing here over the past in 2020 and 2021? What would he say about the pandemic and how the rollout of the vaccines is being handled? What would he say? We're in the midst of King Weekend. And see, in that light, I'm gonna say to you right now, leaders, and I know we got teachers on here as well, aspiring leaders, and then teachers who just want to be a part of the conversation, which is fine. Matter of fact, we have non-educators on here, which is fine, right? But here's the thing, in the context of King and in the context of my topic, because I'm in it, but I got to start with King. You know, if I didn't start with King, then you guys would be justified in going on social media and say, Kafele, you know, I don't know about that guy. We're in the middle of King Weekend, and he said nothing about Dr. King, right? You would be justified in going all over social media, retweeting, sharing, and so forth. This guy, man, he's a fraud, man. He King Weekend, and he didn't even mention King. So you can imagine how I feel when I'm places during this time of the year, right? And his name doesn't come up, but because it happens, right? I'll be invited to speak at a program that's around this time, but it's not a King program, and then King's name doesn't come up. So now I'm at the podium. I'm like, wait a minute, did we forget the date? Right? And I don't mean on King Day, but I mean in the vicinity. Did we forget the date? Did we forget the season? We have to talk about this, right? So I'm saying that to say this. A lot of times as educators and leaders, you hear me well, put this in your notes. You know, how, you know, whether you're using this, the computer, the tablet, the phone, whatever, you know, a lot of times we get it wrong on teaching King. As a matter of fact, I think I'm doing it a disservice when I say a lot of times. Let me say frequently. Right, we get it wrong when we're teaching on Dr. King. And I keep looking at my shirt. I know my mother's sitting there like you forgot to tell them the Baltimore Elite Giants, yet another Negro League team. You know, I rep Negro Leagues on this virtual assistant principal leadership academy. So the Baltimore Elite Giants, one of the stars was Roy Campanella, who's a Hall of Famer who played for the New York Giants, who became the San Francisco Giants, right? So the Baltimore Elite Giants, Negro Leagues, bad dynamite baseball players who were not permitted to play in the majors because they were born black, right? So I rep them every Saturday morning with a different jersey. Let me get back to where I was. So Dr. King, we get it wrong. We'll spend time talking about what King did, right? That's not a bad thing, but let me hear my context. So we'll talk about the Montgomery bus boycott. We'll talk about what happened in Albany, Georgia. We'll talk about Birmingham, right? We'll talk about Selma. We'll talk about Chicago. We'll talk, you know, we'll talk about some of these bigger marches that he engaged in, the more popular, well-known ones. But here's where we fall short so many times. And someone years ago pulled my coat on this, and it stayed in my spirit forever. We talk about them. And let me throw in there the March on Washington. So we'll talk about that, and we'll even play or read or children recite "I Have a Dream," right? So a lot of times that's the focus, and then it's childhood, that type of thing. But where we fall short, Dr. King wrote 4 books, right? There's a lot of books out there about him, biographies, right? There's a lot of books out there that compiled speeches and sermons and his writings, you know, journals and so forth, right? So those books exist. That's his words. But I'm talking about the ones where he sat down and said, I'm going to write this book. Not where someone compiled his sermons and speeches and so forth. Not that. That's his words. But I'm talking about the one where he said, let me get this pen, let me get this pad, and let me write this book. Well, here's where we fall short. In too many cases, no, too frequently, we're not referencing those books. We're just talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I'm saying to you, Dr. King wrote 4 books which reflect his thinking in those times in which he wrote. So for example, his first book in 1958, Stride Toward Freedom. That's his thoughts and reflections on the Montgomery bus boycott. So it's one thing to read about the boycott, but it's another thing to read the thoughts of the man who led it. So I'm saying to us, you got to pick up that book. You got to pick up that book, Stride Toward Freedom, written in 1958. You can get it right on Amazon. And you got to read that. You got to read what he was thinking at that time. Then in 1963, he wrote Strength to Love, right, which was a collection of sermons at that juncture of his life, but he penned it. But then my favorite book that he wrote, 1964, Why We Can't Wait. And this was the book about the Birmingham campaign, which was known as Project C, Project Confrontation, right? That's the one where that famous letter he wrote, Letter from a Birmingham Jail, is a chapter in that book, because the letter was so long they made it it's a chapter. So I'm saying Why We Can't Wait, I will never forget. And I told y'all I'm going a little over. Y'all just hang out with me today. You only see me once a week, right? Because I don't do Facebook Lives throughout the week. When I was a principal at a school in East Orange, New Jersey, every Monday morning I would bring the school together in the auditorium and I would do my announcements in person instead of over the PA system. But I would take a book, like one of these books on this bookcase. I would take a book, a book dealing with history, African American history or African history, because the students were 100% or 99% African American. So I would take a book and read a segment from a book and then give my message around the segment that I read. Like I'll read a paragraph to the youngsters. I'll tell them what the book is. And then I'll do my message based on the paragraph I read. That was my style. That was, that was the way I did it. That was my, that was just the way I presented my messages every day. So one day I had Why We Can't Wait in my hands. And I said, I'm gonna read the first paragraph from Letter from a Birmingham Jail. And to my surprise, the State Department and the superintendent, cabinet members walked into the auditorium. They were monitoring us because before I got to the school, right before I got there, the school was designated as persistently dangerous. So they were monitoring how we were coming out of this. So I take over the school July 1, and on July 5th, I get a letter. The school is considered the most dangerous school in northern New Jersey. Okay, so I got to do unconventional things to get us out of this designation because it was a national story. So I'm reading this paragraph to 600 middle school students in East Orange, New Jersey. And I look at them after I read it as I'm getting ready to give my message. And I said, man, they really locked in. Let me read another paragraph first. And then I look at them and I said, man, they really locked in. Let me read another paragraph. Then I look up at them and I said, man, what is it about this book that they're really locked in? And I said, okay, I got all these State Department people coming here to see what it is I'm doing, because the people were hearing about what we were doing with those morning messages all the way to the state capitol in Trenton. So they came to see for themselves. We weren't suspending kids. We were transforming attitudes and culture. I hope you just heard me. So now, and so the superintendent sitting there, cabinet members from the State Department of Education, they sitting there. And then I said, what you gonna do, man? You got these people all eyes on me. I said, I'm gonna read this whole letter from a Birmingham jail. I read that entire letter. Them kids broke out in a standing ovation after I finished reading that letter. I said, see, that's how you turn schools around. I ain't got to suspend you. I ain't got to do all that stuff. Let me just give you the right stimuli to change your attitude. I gave them the direct words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I will never forget that day as long as I live. So that book, Why We Can't Wait. And then finally, 1967, he wrote his last book. He went to Jamaica to write. He kind of stepped away from the movement, went to Jamaica where he could have privacy, and wrote Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community, right? And that's his final book to say, okay, we've been through Montgomery, we've been through Birmingham, we've been through the March on Washington, we've been through Selma, we've been through Chicago, and then also, we've been through the sanitation strike was coming up in Memphis soon, but he had done a lot in terms of just his outrage about the Vietnam War. So that portion of his life, and now he's saying, okay, where are we going now? That's an important book to read, all four, but that one in particular is still relevant. Where we go from here? And and one could argue 99% of those issues when he wrote that book are still issues in the community, right? So I'm saying to you, because I'm not on here to give a history lesson. I'm on here to say that what I'm saying to you, leader, watching me this morning, that got up this morning to listen to this broadcast, I'm saying you got to incorporate this into you. Oh man, we got Steve Adebato, man. What are you doing here, Steve? I'm honored to see you. Thank you, sir. He's a big time guy here. Jersey folks know Steve Adebato. Steve Adubato interviewed me on his television show many years ago when I was principal in North Tech. I appreciate you being in, Steve. Good to see you. Good to see you. So here, with that said, let's jump into today's discussion. Again, the topic: school leadership in times of social unrest, uprisings, rebellions, and riots. Let's jump into it. I got 5 questions. Kim Wilson Daniels out there, man. She's been faithful for 37 weeks taking these notes. And now week 38. I only got 5 questions, Kim. Just 5. No, yeah, 5. The problem is I got all these sub questions, like 5, 10, 15. I got about 20 sub questions. So we're going to go quick. Here we go. First question is from last week. I need to reiterate it because I need this to set the tone for where I'm going. So I'll go quickly. I said, what does the term social justice education mean to me? Meaning you. With self-reflective for the newbies out here. Every time you hear a question, it's self-reflective. It's not for me. It's for you to ask yourself the question, because everything is about the mirror. Everything is about the self-reflection. So again, what does the term social justice education mean to me? I spoke at the New Jersey Education Association conference last night, and that was my topic. And man, I worked up a sweat. I was blazing on that one. And they were telling me to keep preaching. So I said, don't tell the preacher to preach, because he's gonna preach, right? So what does social justice education mean to me? And I gave you this definition last week. I'm not gonna go into it in depth. I'm just gonna read it again. Social justice education is the ongoing student-centered exploration. Let me say emphasis on student-centered exploration, examination, and assessment of the world upon which your students exist through their own lens. We're talking about them in terms of social justice issues, social injustice issues, in terms of how they see it through their lens. See, when it becomes our lens, then it's not social justice education anymore. It's teacher-driven indoctrination. That's what it becomes. See, it's not about us imposing our values, imposing our beliefs, although our values and beliefs have a place in the discussion. But it's not our values and beliefs driving the discussion. It's about helping the youngster to bring out, that word educe, to bring out, right, the learning, right? And that's where, and that's just good teaching, right? That's just good teaching. So we want to be able to bring out that knowledge that's just laying there dormant, waiting for you to tap into it, or helping that youngster to unleash it, right? So through their own lens, it's an interdisciplinary critical analysis of the world around them with respect to their relationship with it and how they fit in it via their own self-expression relative to issues of social justice, social injustice, racial injustice, and overall systemic, institutional, and individual racism, whether it be implicit or explicit. Now, last week, I broke all that down. Go to week 37 for those who missed it and just watch that, and you'll see it. I don't want to spend the time doing the same thing when it's all on video. So here we go with the new content. Question number 2. And I should say Kim Wilson Daniel. You can find the notes on her Twitter page at Kim Wilson Daniel. No plural S at the end, just Daniel. Or you can go to her Facebook page, Kimberly Wilson Daniel. That's L-Y. Kimberly Wilson Daniel. She'll have the notes up at some point today, right? Sometimes she puts them up right away. Sometimes it'll be later in the day, but they'll be up, and then I'll retweet them, repost them, all that kind of thing. All right, so here we go. Question number 2. Getting ready to get heavy? Put on your seatbelts. We're getting ready to talk about some things here. We're talking about you. We're talking about your leadership. We're talking about who you are in terms of your relationship to staff. So here we go. Number 2, can my students, particularly my students of color, articulate beyond emotional reactions the injustices that they see and are surrounded by? Let me read it again. Can my students, particularly my students of color, articulate beyond emotional reactions the injustices that they see and are surrounded by? Now, I got 5 sub questions to go with this. Hit that retweet button for me. Somebody tell them Kafele getting ready to give some information here. Hit that share button. Let them know Principal Kafele is in the building, getting ready to give us something that we could use in terms of being able to ensure that social justice is a part of what we do in our classrooms, in our buildings. So here we go. I'm asking you the question first with the question I just asked. Can they go beyond emotional reaction? So in other words, youngster, something happens outside, whether it be a national story, local story, whatever it is. And now youngster may be angry. Youngster may be upset. Youngster may be mad, right? Youngster may be bothered by it. So now I'm asking you, in your school, can youngster go beyond being angry, right? Can youngster go beyond being upset? Can youngster now, because of the way your class is structured, the classes of the teachers you supervise, I should say, can youngster now, because there's a confidence that has been developed in the classroom, there's a culture that has been developed in the classroom, to the extent that students have a voice in the classroom. So when I say voice, on the one hand, the ability to express themselves, but on the other hand, the ability to find themselves, so to find their voice, because it's one thing to verbalize, to articulate, but it's another thing to find my unique voice, right? Like when you see me on Saturday morning, this is my voice. I don't speak in all genres, right? Somebody call me and say, speak on a political topic, which people do. I'm like, that's not my voice. But I can give you some names you can call, and it's their voice, right? So I don't want to talk on those issues, right? So somebody called me, they say, can you talk on police brutality? I said, no, but I can call my guy DeLacy Davis, Dr. DeLacy Davis, and he can, right? So that's how that works. So my voice is in the education space, but it's not the whole of education. It's in the areas that I have a passion for, such as school leadership, to be an example. So that student in that classroom is that student in a situation where I can express my voice, but simultaneously I can find my unique voice. Because a person can go through their, not only school, but they can go through life. Hear me, somebody. A person can go through not only school, but they can go through life and never having found their voice. So now they live this life of frustration that I wish I had this and I wish I had that. TB Summers tag DeLacy and let them know I just talked about him, right? So here I'm saying there are people, they will go through life without ever finding their voice. And now I'm frustrated because I don't have this, I don't have that. That's because you were never in a situation where you found your inner essence. See, that inner essence of you. See, we know the external, we see that. And other people who communicate with you, they may see your inner essence, but it's not good enough if they see it, but they don't communicate it to you and help you to find that which they see. So to them, it's obvious, it's evident. I see what this dude, I see what this young lady is all about, is capable of. They see it. Do you hear me? But a lot of time you don't see it. So you don't see yourself when other people see you. So I'm saying in a classroom situation, you want to make sure that your students are in a situation where they're able to find their own voice. Let me tell y'all something. This ain't even in my notes today, man. I'm somewhere else, right? So I'm saying to you, that's a part of your leadership in helping youngster to find himself, to find herself, as opposed to going through life looking at other people. Man, I wish I had what they had. I wish I had what they had. But you do. You have the capacity. But you got to tap into this. You got to unleash what's in here. You got to let it go. You got to let it free. You got to let it fly. You got to let it soar. See, you got to let that happen. You can't have this thing handcuffed and chained inside of you, because then, or anchored to the ground, because then you can never take off. See, you want to be able to take off. And that's why it's important. See, a lot of times we look at the classroom and we're looking for mathematics proficiency, science proficiency, language arts proficiency, social studies proficiency. Yeah, we need that. That's good. But let me tell you something with my former students sitting right here. I'm saying to you, if I could find my essence, If I could find my voice, locate it, identify it, search where is it, man, that'll make the mathematics that much easier. That'll make the science that much easier, the social study, the language arts, because now I know me. It's people, hear me somebody, there are people who look in their mirrors and do not recognize who that is looking back. You don't hear me. That's my former student I put on the screen. She was in my 5th grade class, man. That's going back to, she was in my class, the class of, I think it was 1994, right? Now she's a teacher. That's why I'm keeping up there so long. I'm just so proud, man. See, in other words, there it is. She found her voice. Katrina Holloway. She found her voice. See, you got young people in school who their potential is unlimited. But have they been given the ability to find their voice? Let me keep it going, y'all. Listen. So the question I was asking, can the student go beyond just emotional reaction? And that took me on my tangent, right? Because I want that youngster to be able to, yes, teacher, I have a thought about what happened. I have a thought about what happened on January 6th. But not just in terms of what the eyes saw, but I can go deeper. See, that's what I'm talking about. Youngster goes deep. Youngster provides historical context. See, youngster can expound on the topic, not just I saw people storming the White House. No. Youngster says, but I can connect this to what happened in 1700. Or youngster says, but I can connect this to what happened in during the time right after Reconstruction, right? So see, youngster has historical context, right? So youngster can make a lot of sense out of it. So now I'm saying to you, appreciate that, Derek. I'm saying to you, let me get into these questions, man. Letter A. So Kim Wilson, Daniel Way, I'm structuring this. I got 5 questions and then I got the sub questions. Letter A. I got 5 right here. Let me go quick, y'all. It's 11:37 and I ain't even nowhere. So letter A. Is it normal to talk about social justice issues in my classrooms? So meaning the classrooms of the teachers that you supervise or will supervise, right? Is it normal to talk about social justice issues in classrooms, right? And you know something, somebody just wrote, Shemaine Carr said, go Miss Holloway. You know something, y'all gonna have to forgive me for a second. I gotta say this. I'm 60 years old. When that young lady, Katrina, was my student, I was about 34. I want y'all to hear me. I'm 60. When she was my student, I was a teacher. I was 34 that year. I was 33 and I turned 34 that year. That was 1994. It's 2021. Let me ask you a question. Do your students from that far back, if you were doing a video, would they tune in? I don't even have to elaborate on that. If your students from way back when, if you were doing a video, would they see it fitting, like they say in church, not robbery, to tune in, to watch you? For Katrina and the other former students to check in on Saturdays, that speaks volumes. And I'm not even talking about me right now. I'm talking about you. It speaks volumes. It's right. It's like the confirmation as to whether or not you were effective when that person was your student. I mean, see, you may not know how effective you were in real time. It might take 30 years. It might take 20 years for you to really know how effective you were. So when they come back years later and they still checking you out, they're still interacting with you, that's when you know you did your job. I know that's not my topic, but when I saw the person that cheered her on, I said, man, yeah, you're right. I need to cheer her on too. That's when you know that you handled your business. That's when you know you took care of business, because 30 years later, they can come back on here and say, oh, wow, Now I remember this person was no good for me. Now let me go right on the thread and let all of them know that this person was no good for me. See, they do that. I can't control that. See, so I'm saying to you, leader, I'm saying to you, aspiring leader, I want you to think about that every day, virtually, hybrid, on location. Ask yourself, walk around with your mirror, figuratively or literally, and ask yourself, are my actions something that the student will think about me favorably 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now? Or are my actions, my demeanor, my interactions such that youngster may grow up hating my guts? Or I won't be a thought to them later on. You got to consider that. You can't just think about what's happening right now, because those youngsters will be adults and they will have their own families and they will reflect, they will recollect, and they will consider you every time they think of the school. What will be their thoughts? That matters. Let me keep going. I was on letter A. Is it normal to talk about social justice issues? Is it normal to talk about social justice issues in my classroom? Right? I don't have much to say there because I've been talking so much. I'm just saying, if it is not normal, then you got to ask yourself, why not? Why not? Right? If it is, then carry on. Right? But if not, then you got to ask yourself, why not? And the answer may have something to do with you, your leadership. Letter B. Are my students therefore comfortable with being engaged in tough conversations about social justice, including discussions on social unrest, uprisings, rebellions, and riots? Are my students therefore comfortable with these conversations? So the teacher in the classroom with whatever number of students, is there a level of comfort that we can have this conversation? And remember, I said it's interdisciplinary. So the conversation rooted in a math lesson, rooted in a science lesson, a social studies lesson, a language arts lesson, a PE lesson, a health lesson, a CTE lesson, whatever it is there comfort, right? Letter C, building on that, have norms of engagement been established in my classrooms that allow all students to maintain their dignity without being disrespected, denigrated, ridiculed, harassed, etc. See, you can't have a free for all. You can't have the free for all amongst staff. There's got to be norms of engagement that are clearly established, because see, like I said it last week, I'm gonna say it again. I'm not ignorant to the fact that the children of the people that we keep seeing on the news every day invading the Capitol, I'm not ignorant to the fact that them children are in schools too. So now the children of, say, you all, and the children of, say, some of those parents, they could be in the same classroom. So now you got children in the classroom who are learning from their parents at home, and now those children are saying what happened at that Capitol was correct. And then you got the children of, say, myself, and they sitting in the classroom saying, oh, heck no, it ain't. And now you got conflict. So now if you let that go, it could get ugly. But if you've established as a leader, in conjunction with your teachers, that we have norms of engagement, we respect the different perspectives and we respect where they're coming from. We understand that. It may not be coming from the child. It may be coming from the way the child was raised. So therefore, we know we know that we'll hear various different schools of thought, but there will be norms of engagement of how they engage with one another, so that there's no one in there that loses their dignity in the conversation, right? Being disrespected, being denigrated, being laughed at, ridiculed, harassed, teased, whatever the case may be, right? That's important. Can't be no free for all. We're talking about a school. And at the end of the day, those students have to get along. We can't have conflict over politics, right? Over political beliefs that the parents imposed on the children. So that there's a balancing act there you got to play, right? And you got to be proficient at it, right? See, this discussion here, this is not about your views. So let's say your views are comparable to mine. I made mine very clear in last week. If you don't know them, go to watch video 37. I made mine very clear, right? But see, if I'm principled, I may have others that have something diametrically opposed to how I feel. I can't beat them up for it, literally, figuratively speaking. I got to give them the same platform that I give anybody else. But there's got to be norms of engagement. See, that's crucial. If I could help youngster to see that what happened is wrong without me having a fight with the community, and I'm on the headline story that Principal Kafele has been terminated, right? Then fine, because it can lead to that. It can lead to termination, right? So it's a balancing act. It's using finesse. It's being able to maneuver so that you can still get it done, but everybody can still be one because our culture of the school is so positive. But it's not easy. That's why I bring it up today. Letter D. Are my classrooms a safe environment where the balance of speaking freely but respectfully is maintained? So we can say that that's an add-on to what I just said in letter C because I elaborated. So again, are my classrooms a safe environment where the balance of speaking freely, where the balance of speaking freely but respectfully is maintained? See, that's so in other words, as leader, that's you. And if the balance is not maintained, that's a reflection of you, right? See, that's you. See, everything about a school is a reflection of the school's leadership. Everything about a school is a reflection on the leadership of the school. And you show me any given school that is doing poorly, performing low performance, bring in a high performing principal, that school's going to change. Or show me a high performing school and you bring in a principal that's the complete opposite, that school's going to change too. Principal leadership matters. It matters exponentially across the board. You show me a school that's dirty, the floor. Show me a school where the floors don't shine. They're clean, but they don't shine. A principal can change that, not the custodian. Principal. That's just a conversation. Custodian, I need to be able to see my reflection in the floors tomorrow morning. It's done. That's principal leadership. Letter E. And by the way, let me just say this. I was being literal when I said I need to see my reflection in the floor. Just ask my old custodians in East Orange, New Jersey. They'll tell you. Or Newark. I need to look at the floor and see me looking back up. That's just me though. See, I needed the building. It's not that I needed a mirror everywhere I went. I just wanted sparkling floors. But that's me. I divert. I digress. So here, letter E. Are my teachers at a point where they are comfortable with leaving? I'm stuttering. We'll start letter E over. Are my teachers at a point where they are comfortable with hearing views and perspectives from their students that may be inconsistent with their own views, perspectives, values, and beliefs? Oh man. Ooh. You know, when I wrote that one during the week, I said that I could do the whole session on that one. I don't even need the rest of the stuff. Just that one. Let me read it to you again. Are my teachers at a point where they are comfortable with hearing views and perspectives from their students that may be inconsistent with their own views, perspectives, values, and beliefs? Let me tell you something. You're either one of the leaders or you will be. And that is inevitable if social justice is a part of your reality. And I'm not talking race right now. I'm not talking about the black students feel one way, the white students feel another way. Because if you can take students of the same race, ethnic groups, and have very divergent views amongst same race, same ethnic group students. It could, because they're not monolithic. So you could have a student of the same race who's far left, and as someone of a student of the same race who's far right in the same classroom, right? And not because they are solidified in their political beliefs, but depending on the age, but it might be coming from home, right? Those are the values, those are the beliefs of home. So therefore, that's what I carry with me. See, that's real. So the question is, as you work with your staff, are you helping teachers to be able to navigate being in situations where the students' views are diametrically opposed to the views of the teacher? Because see, if the teacher is not careful, the teacher can be sitting in the classroom arguing with students, and that violates the whole objective to why we're doing this. So it's not a debate and an argument with a student, right? It's just an open discussion, talking about these issues and being able to finesse it in a way that maybe we can sway the thinking of the student if the thinking is so, like if students sit in the classroom and justifying, a dead police officer, etc., 5 deaths, then there's a need to sway some thinking there. But because it's a school setting, we have to be mindful of our school roles. That's the point that I'm making. And particularly in your leadership capacity, or else you'll be in your office all day putting out fires that relate to discussions that were taking place in your classrooms, right? As opposed to student and learning occurring on a regular basis. That was number 2. I'm on number 3. We getting there, y'all. We getting there. It's only 5. Number 3, do the teachers that I supervise have the necessary cultural competence to engage my students in issues of social justice? See, social justice, cultural competence, they kind of go hand in glove, right? Because we're talking about, on the one hand, issues out here, but we're talking about culturally how we perceive these issues. So I'm asking you, therefore, do the teachers that you supervise, are they equipped to engage in these discussions, right? Do they have the cultural competence to engage young people in these discussions? We already know in a lot of cases that competence does not exist. We know that. And that's why they hired you. Because your role as a leader is to bridge that gap. See, there's a gap here, and then here's you in the center. So your role is to bridge it. So the teacher can walk into that classroom with the confidence, but also the wherewithal and the knowledge base to be able to engage youngster in those tough conversations. So letter A, what do I know about the cultural competence of my staff? I'm asking you, leader. I'm asking you, assistant principal. I'm asking you, aspiring assistant principal, to ask yourself, what do I know about the cultural competence of my staff? Right? And then letter B, are discussions on social justice normal for my staff, or are they more so reactions to situations or anomalies or aberrations? See, so is it like, okay, we'll talk about George Floyd because that was such a big issue, but things more local, things that are more directly related to the students in the school, I don't want to touch that one because I don't feel comfortable in it. So do I have the social justice competence? Do I have the cultural competence to engage my students in that conversation? A part of your instruction, your clinical supervision of your staff would be to engage them in those conversations, not just instructional leadership relative to math, science, language arts, and social studies, but also the social justice issues as well, to help them to develop a level of confidence to be effective in that discussion. Letter C, what role do I play toward developing my staff's cultural competence? So you have a role to play. It's not them in the classroom and over here, and then you're over here and you're disconnected from it, or you're detached from it. You got to be connected to what's happening in any teacher that you supervise. You have to have a relationship with that teacher, right? And an indirect relationship with that classroom, right? You can't remove yourself from it. You can't detach yourself from it. You can't point fingers at that teacher made an egregious error, but you're not involved. So you got to be involved to minimize the possibility or potential for that error to occur in that conversation. Letter D, is my staff at a point where they can engage in difficult social justice conversations without creating negative or permanent tension between one another? right? So I'm talking about staff to staff now. Is my staff at a point where they can engage in difficult social justice conversations without creating negative energy or permanent tension between one another? Man, see, that's you again. See, leadership is so vast. That's you. That's you in terms of how you lead, how you engage. What are your norms of engagement? How do you broach the topic? That's because, like I said last week, you can't go in, bam. That doesn't work. You got to finesse this. See, because staff has to be able to have that conversation. But it starts with you. It starts with you. Let's keep it moving. Letter E. I'm on the last one of number 3. What strategies do I utilize to assist staff with addressing and eradicating whatever implicit or explicit biases that might exist amongst them, right? See, that boils down to the communication. It boils down to your forethought in terms of how we're going to approach this, because we know we've got divergent thinking on that staff. See, so much more I could say about that, but I don't want to be way over time, right? So I gave you that to think about, and you run with it. Let me go to number 4. Number 4 has 3 questions and number 5 has 3, so I'm almost done. Number 4, what type of professional development do I provide staff toward developing a comfort and confidence in engaging my students in issues of social justice? Again, what type of PD, professional development, do I provide staff toward developing a comfort and a confidence in engaging my staff in issues of social justice, right? So here, I got these 3 quick questions. Letter A, is PD, is professional development in issues of social justice relevant to my leadership? Let me say that again. Is professional development in issues of social justice relevant to my leadership? So in other words, if there's social justice institutes, academies, conferences out there, is it consistent with your leadership to recommend those academies, those institutes, those conferences? Do you see this as being relevant to your school? So therefore, is it relevant to your leadership to say, teachers, so a cluster of teachers, or make it open to all teachers? Here's one that I want to suggest that we attend. You go on with them. Or bringing in the social justice presenter to talk about how we infuse social justice into the classroom, into the school. Is that consistent with your leadership? Letter B, do I engage my staff in book studies, article studies, blog post studies that address issues of social justice? So going well beyond just the conversation, but let's get the book. Let's get the article. Let's get the blog post. Right? And let's break it down. Let's dissect it. Let's have that conversation. So now what that does, it removes you from the conversation. And now it puts the author at the core of the conversation. So now we're dissecting the author's words and seeing where we go with that. Right? Of course, you have your own reason, your own motivation for using a particular article or book or chapter or blog post. But you're relying on the words of the author, right? So obviously that would be a great practice as well, right? I'm on the last one, number 5. How knowledgeable am I on issues of social justice, particularly those that directly impact my students of color? So again, let me reread it. How knowledgeable am I, meaning you, on issues of social justice, particularly those that directly impact my students of color, right? So in other words, this is one where oftentimes you got to reflect back on like where you grew up, who you grew up around, what you were exposed to, what did you see, and then the students in the classroom, do they reflect your world, right? Or when you come into a school and become a teacher, become a leader, are you with a population of students, meaning people, that are very different racially, ethnically, culturally than what you're accustomed to. Because see, if you've got children who do not necessarily reflect, and let me put children in the category, let me not use the word children, let me use people. So they're people who in your case are children, but they're not necessarily of the people who have been in your space throughout your life. See, I grew up in East Orange, New Jersey. The city was 100% black. That's all I knew until we moved when I got into high school. And I said, oh, there's another world out here that I was not aware of. I saw it from afar, television, from a distance, but I had not been immersed into it. Well, there are educators, as we know, who were in their world, their bubble, and that's all they knew. They knew that there were other ethnic groups out here, other races out here, but they didn't necessarily have intimate familiarity with them. So now here they are in a classroom, and there are those folks represented as students. Well, the question is, do you know them? Do you know them culturally? See, do you know them in terms of experience, their own realities, their own challenges, their own obstacles as a result of being in that racial ethnic group? It matters. So see, so that takes me to what I said, question number 5, how knowledgeable am I on issues of social justice, particularly those that directly impact my students of color? See, if you grew up in a bubble and you don't know other bubbles, then a part of your homework is not just reading books, but it's understanding the people that you work with, meaning the children. Culturally, it's significant. The issues that impact them, social justice, racial justice issues, you have to be conversant in that if you're going to connect with them in the classroom. Letter A, what is my comfort level toward engaging my staff in issues in social justice discussions, right? So again, based on, and I'm talking about you now when I talked about that bubble. So now, what is your comfort level toward engaging your staff in these discussions, these social justice discussions, particularly if you're really not privy to them, if you're really not aware of them, if you really don't understand them or comprehend them? Then you got work to do, because your comfort level is probably not good. It's probably not that high. Letter B, what am I currently reading that addresses issues of social justice? What book are you reading? What blog posts are you reading? Right? What article are you reading? See, you got to read, you got to be knowledgeable. You know, I have an understanding of social justice, but see, I'm born in this community. I'm saying to you, you have to understand it as well if you were not born in this community. Right? But let me be very clear, as I always am with this. Because if we're talking about black children, because you as a black leader share this, are in the same racial ethnic group, it doesn't mean that you guys relate. See, I don't want to give that impression. Because 2 white people are in the room, it doesn't mean that they relate to one another. Because 2 Latinx people are in the room doesn't mean that they relate. Because 2 African Americans are in the room, they're in the same racial group, ethnic group. It doesn't mean that they relate culturally. It doesn't mean they see the world the same culturally. There's a whole lot of folks who are black that I don't see the world like they see it, and they don't see the world like I see it. So just because one is of the same racial ethnic group does not mean that now there's this commonality in terms of perspective and views and values and beliefs. It could be like night and day. So that always has to be considered. So therefore, I don't want to give the impression that when I talk about this portion of social justice, that I'm talking to the white educator in the classroom with black and brown students, because I'm not. I've been in this business too long to know that I've had black educators in my schools with black children that I said, oh boy, I got a lot of work to do with this teacher, right? I mean, so that's, that's real. That's part of the reality of leadership, though. So you gotta be cognizant of that. Where are we at here? I'm trying to find something to put up here. Here we go. So, and you guys know I read all of these when I'm done. So the last one, how do I keep myself abreast of social justice issues that impact my students, right? How do I, so a better way of wording that would have been, how do I go about keeping myself abreast of social issues that impact my students. In other words, I'm asking you, what is it that you're doing right now to keep yourself cognizant of what's happening in the world of your students, right? And when I say keeping yourself abreast, I'm also saying in terms of how you and your staff interact, how you and your staff dialogue, how you inform your staff, provide information, but then in exchange, because I'm sure you'd have staff members who are extremely knowledgeable, and they may be providers of information for you. See, so you gotta. I'm asking you to ask yourself the question. Get your mirror, hold your mirror up, and just ask yourself the question: what am I doing? How am I keeping myself abreast of these issues? Right, so that I come to my school equipped. That I'm not the generic leader. That I'm just leading, and the children are generic. They're plain. I'm plain, and we're just walking in there. No, you got to have specificity relative to what you know. Right? You got to know these children. You got to know their community. You got to know the issues. So you got to do your homework. See, like where you wouldn't know these towns because unless you're from Jersey. So if I'm working in Newark, but then I decide I want to go to the suburbs of Livingston. That's where the former Governor Christie lived. That's where the $1 million houses are. And I go up there with my Newark mentality, going to Livingston. Or if I started in Livingston and then I come to Newark with my Livingston mentality, I'm probably not going to be optimally successful because I'm using methodology for children of millionaires in a city that is urban, where the majority of children are receiving free and reduced lunch, and the challenges that accompany that. So therefore, I got to make sure that I know the landscape, that I know more than just pedagogy, that I know more than just the generic leadership, but I understand the challenges, the obstacles, the realities, the demands of the community upon which I serve, upon which I lead. So that takes me all the way to the end. So with that, I always give you a parting question to consider when I'm off this screen. And the parting question, I like to call it a homework assignment. What are the social justice, racial justice issues of the day that directly impact my students of color? Right? I'm asking you, what do you know? What are the social justice, racial justice issues of the day that directly impact my students of color? Right. So just consider that, ponder over that, and see, test yourself on what you know. Right. So to wrap it up, next week, I'm back in this book, chapter 5. Chapter is called There's Much to Know as an Assistant Principal. We would have wrapped up chapter 5 today had January 6th not happened. January 6th happened and I shifted gears. We get into the stuff that's not as popular. I want to talk about district policy. I want to talk about contracts, right? Things of that nature, not the things that a lot of people are going to tune in probably to hear, because that's not hot button issues, right? But as a leader, they are concrete, necessary issues. So we're going to talk about district policy and contracts and other documents that you need to be conversant in next week. So read chapter 5. We'll be on this for 2 weeks. We'll take this to the end of January. Read chapter 5 and get your hands on this book as well, because I'll be using this as well moving forward. Visit my website at principalkafele.com. Go to the YouTube channel for the academy of the same name, Virtual AP Leadership Academy. I changed its name. It used to be called School Leadership Thoughts. So please visit, subscribe, watch the videos you've missed. Or if you've seen them all, if you've been on live with me the whole time, then just subscribe so that when I start putting other things on outside of this, that you get them through your email, right? Like and follow my Virtual Assistant Principal Leadership Academy Facebook page, and start reading that commentary that I do every Sunday. I do a commentary every Sunday. I try to do it in the morning. Last week I got distracted, but it'll be on early tomorrow morning. Just my thoughts leading into the new week. And then finally, COVID precautions, 6 feet apart. Mask. If you got to double them mask up, triple them up, whatever it is, just wear that mask. Forget your politics. If your politics don't allow you to do it, throw your politics to the side and put that mask on so we can stay alive. We're moving up on 400,000 deaths now. Just put the mask on. Make sure that you watch your diet, eat right, don't overdo it. And then we'll see you next Saturday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. I appreciate you guys being here every Saturday. Tell a friend, tell a colleague, join us next Saturday. We just making sure that assistant principals have all the information that they need in order for them to be optimally effective at what they do, but also to prepare them for the principalship at some point, right? So don't forget, on that channel, also on that same channel called Virtual AP Leadership Academy, those interview videos are there. Some people are not realizing, don't realize that I have those interview videos on the channel. So go to the channel. If you got an interview coming up, I got virtual interview and on location interview videos. Check them videos out. And then when you get the job, you can just hit me up and thank me for being hired, because I'm almost certain that those videos are going to get you hired, right? They're that thorough. So with that said, have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week ever. Peace. Flip it backwards. Peace. Thumbs up, meaning I approve this message once again. And then cock that fist back one time. Count to 3 with me. 1, 2, 3. Bam! Appreciate you. See you next week. 11 o'clock Eastern.